When you watch the nightly news, covering Congress always feels a bit like, well, watching a professional wrestling match.
Oh, absolutely. It's loud, it's super personal, and, the cameras are pretty much entirely focused on the people shouting at the center of the ring.
Right. But as someone who loves digging into the actual paperwork, I always think of Congress more like an iceberg. The shouting on TV, I
Yeah.
mean, that is just the visible 10%.
Yeah, the vast majority of what is actually happening is completely submerged,
Yeah.
out of public view.
Exactly.
It's just this incredibly dense, sprawling network of logistics and administrative frameworks being quietly constructed day after day.
Which is exactly why we are here. Welcome to this special edition of our deep dive, Congress in Context.
Glad to be here for it.
Our mission today is to help you, the everyday citizen, plunge below the surface and really decode recent legislative activity. We want to understand exactly what Congress is building for the country.
And we're going to do it entirely without the partisan spin. We're just looking at the blueprints.
It's just the
Wow.
blueprints, yeah. And we have a massive stack of legislative documents to get through today.
Yeah, massive is an understatement. We're talking everything from highly targeted local resolutions to these sweeping national frameworks dealing with artificial intelligence, the opioid crisis, and even government ethics.
Right. Before we jump in, though, just a quick housekeeping note for you. Keep in mind that this is a completely independent, ad-free civic education project.
Yep.
So if you find this breakdown helpful, you can support our production infrastructure by using the Buy Me a Coffee link. It's located right in your app's show notes.
It really helps keep the lights on.
It really does.
Okay.
So let's unpack this. I want to start by looking at how Congress structures its response to complex, multi-layered domestic issues. And, well, there is almost nothing more complex right now than public health.
Specifically the synthetic drug crisis.
Right. And what is really interesting here is that when you read the actual text of these bills, you realize they aren't attempting a single sweeping, stop the drugs ban.
No, not at all. They are approaching a public health emergency, almost like a supply chain problem. They're attacking it from multiple logistical angles at once.
I definitely noticed that. For instance, I was looking at the legislation targeting xylazine. That's H.R. 1266 for anyone tracking it.
Right, the veterinary tranquilizer.
Exactly, which is being severely misused in the illicit drug supply. So this bill moves xylazine to Schedule 3rd under the Controlled Substances Act. But here's what confused me at first. They don't just ban it overnight.
No, they don't.
The bill intentionally delays the registration requirements for medical practitioners for 60 days. Why leave that gap?
Well, it's because of the real-world ripple effects. Think about what a Schedule 3rd designation actually means mechanically.
Okay.
It places strict controls on how a drug is ordered, stored, and tracked. And, xylazine is still a completely legal, necessary drug for veterinarians operating on large animals.
Right, like horses and cattle.
Exactly. If Congress just flipped a switch and made it Schedule 3rd instantly, thousands of legitimate rural veterinarians would suddenly be committing a federal crime just by having it in their safe.
Oh, wow. Just because they haven't had time to update their DEA registrations?
Exactly. So that 60-day delay is a purposeful buffer. It gives the DEA and FDA time to expedite applications and just smooth the transition.
Ensuring legitimate use continues.
Right, while still eventually forcing the drug into automated reporting systems to stop it from bleeding into the illicit market.
And they are pairing that supply-side tracking with frontline action, too. I saw a couple of other bills, H.R. 1561 and 2004, that focus entirely on the testing side of the crisis.
Yeah, the testing infrastructure is huge.
One of them provides first responders with rapid response test strips for fentanyl and xylazine. The other directs the Department of Health and Human Services to figure out if hospital ERs should implement routine fentanyl testing.
Like as a standard procedure for anyone coming in with an overdose.
Right. And then if you look at the enforcement side, you have H.R. 8005, the Stop Pills That Kill Act.
That's a big one.
Yeah, it directs the DEA to create a comprehensive operation plan within 180 days to specifically target counterfeit fentanyl and methamphetamine pills.
It forces the agency to actually audit their current campaigns and detail exactly what they are doing for youth education.
It's almost like Congress is building a multi-tool rather than just swinging a single hammer. I mean, they are utilizing regulatory scheduling, frontline testing, and supply chain auditing simultaneously.
That is a great analogy, the multi-tool approach. And we actually see a very similar approach when we transition from domestic health to domestic infrastructure.
You're talking about the AI bills?
Specifically, yeah, the collision between artificial intelligence and the national energy grid.
Yeah.
As AI models grow, their demand for electricity is becoming a massive structural challenge.
Right. I keep reading about how data centers are basically just drinking electricity. What is Congress actually doing about that?
Well, they have H.R. 93 nuts, the AI and Other Critical and Emerging Technologies Act, which establishes a national strategic committee to mitigate risks and promote safe AI deployment.
Mm.
But regarding the energy grid specifically,
Yeah, what's the move there?
they are approaching it from two completely opposite directions. First, you have H.R. 6529, directing the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, or FERC, to hold technical conferences.
To what end?
The goal here is to develop rate structures that protect residential ratepayers. They want to ensure that a massive AI data center moving into your town doesn't suddenly, triple the energy bill for the local bakery or your own home.
So that's the defensive move, protect the consumer.
Right. But then another piece of legislation, H.R. 9339, flips the script entirely.
Oh, so.
It directs the Secretary of Energy to assess how AI can actually be used to enhance the bulk power system itself.
Wait, like using AI to fix the grid?
Exactly. For example, using AI to expedite the incredibly slow process of connecting new power generators to the grid.
That is fascinating. They are regulating the threat AI poses to the grid while simultaneously trying to use AI to upgrade the grid.
It's a very mechanical, two-pronged approach.
But, none of this architecture works without funding. I was looking at the broad fiscal directives like HR's 1438, which sets up consideration for major bills.
Like the DoD 2027 appropriations, H.R. 8800.
Yes, and the Continuing Appropriations Act for 2027, which is H.R. 9770. And buried in the text of that one, there is a very specific notable detail. It explicitly prevents cost of living adjustments from members of Congress.
Yeah, that is a standard procedural move you see quite often. It signals fiscal restraint to the public.
Right. But it does raise an important question about how this body actually functions. I mean, we've talked about what they're trying to do with AI and opioids, but how do lawmakers navigate the deep divisions in that building to actually get these massive frameworks passed?
Well, this is where we get into the political dynamics.
Yeah.
Because realistically, it is not all partisan warfare.
Really? It sure looks like it on TV.
I know, but there are areas where lawmakers find consensus very easily, usually when it hits local municipal budgets. My favorite example from this stack of documents is S.J. Ezra's 201.
Oh, the fire truck one?
Yes. It is a joint resolution directing the Federal Trade Commission to investigate anti-competitive practices in, of all things, the fire truck manufacturing industry.
It sounds incredibly niche, doesn't it? I was reading this thinking, why is the U.S. Senate talking about fire trucks?
But this is a perfect example of a unified, bipartisan issue.
Right, because the resolution points out that just 3 companies currently control 70 to 80% of the fire truck market in America. And this consolidation is driving up prices astronomically and extending lead times by years.
And when a local, rural fire department cannot afford to replace a breaking truck or, has to wait 3 years for delivery, that severely strains municipal budgets.
Which affects everyone.
Exactly. Potholes and fire trucks don't have a political party. When local infrastructure breaks down, it instantly becomes a bipartisan priority.
We also see unified pushes on the global front, too, like H.R. 1939, the Sudan Peace and Stability Act.
That's a very comprehensive strategy.
It really is. It requires the president to submit plans for civilian protection and humanitarian aid. And it mandates sanctions against actors violating human rights or supplying arms to warring factions.
But of course, the legislative process also absorbs highly charged ideological bills.
Definitely.
And this is a good moment to remind you, as you are listening, that our goal here is just to convey the structural content and stated positions within these bills.
Right. We aren't taking sides or endorsing any viewpoints at all.
Exactly. But it is important to understand how these ideological markers are mechanically placed in the legislative record.
Absolutely. So, looking at the text of these bills, we see legislation like H.R. 8781. This bill proposes redefining the term sex under Title IX strictly by biological criteria.
Right, specifically defining male and female based on reproductive systems rather than by self-identified gender.
Then you also see bills that dictate the operational posture of federal agencies, like H.R. 9087. This legislation prohibits the State Department from displaying any flags other than the U.S. flag, the Foreign Service flag, the POWMIA flag, and the hostage flag.
It also prohibits the use of any map that inaccurately depicts the Gulf of America.
We also see this dynamic playing out in the Senate. SRS 807 is a resolution seeking civil action against former President Donald Trump.
Yes, that resolution alleges violations of the Foreign Emoluments Clause regarding foreign gifts and business investments.
Right. It basically calls on the Senate Legal Counsel to initiate a civil action.
And these are the massive ideological debates that command the public's attention. They are the primary way representatives signal their core values and priorities to their voting base.
Which brings up something I really need to ask you about. I was looking through the daily logs, and while all these high-stakes, headline-grabbing ideological debates are happening, there is this quiet stream of completely routine resolutions passing in the background.
Oh, constantly.
Like, there's S-Rays 810, which simply assigned majority party members to their committee seats for the session, or S-Con-Res 37, which just authorized the use of the Capitol Rotunda for a memorial ceremony honoring the late Senator Lindsey Graham.
Routine administrative maintenance.
Right. How do these purely routine gears keep turning when the building feels like it's on fire with ideological warfare? That connects really well to something else I noticed in the pile, ethics and process. Congress spends an enormous amount of time regulating its own internal infrastructure.
They do. And you can see a concerted effort right now to build ethical firewalls. Look at H.R. 7008, which specifically restricts stock trading for members of Congress.
That's been a long time coming.
And then there's a Senate bill, S. 4188, which prohibits government officials, including members of Congress and the president, from participating in prediction market contracts using non-public information.
Okay, hold on. Stop right there. I know what the stock market is, but explain prediction market contracts to me like I'm 5.
Sure. A prediction market is essentially a platform where people can bet real money on the outcome of future events.
Like sports betting, but for politics.
Basically, it could be betting on who will win an election, whether a specific piece of legislation will pass by a certain date, or even if the Federal Reserve will change interest rates.
Ah, I see where this is going.
Right. So if you are a member of Congress sitting in a closed-door committee meeting, you might have non-public information that a major tech bill is about to die in committee.
And if you then go to a prediction market and bet against the bill's success,
You are profiting off insider knowledge. So this legislation penalizes that practice with fines up to double the profit made from the transaction.
wow. Okay, so that is internal oversight. But they're also tightening oversight externally.
Yes, like with H.R. 91785, the Inspector General Reform Act.
Right, which enhances the authority of inspectors general to investigate waste and fraud. It gives them a specific mandate to oversee how federal agencies use their force policies.
And on the transparency front, focusing on elections, there are bills H.R. 9771 and 9772 imposing up to a 200% tax penalty on tax-exempt organizations that make political contributions if they receive foreign funding.
That is a massive penalty.
It is. It forces annual disclosure of those foreign contributions broken down by the country of origin.
So it's a massive amount of oversight architecture. But simultaneously, Congress is still tasked with managing the actual physical landscape of the United States. And the sheer volume of highly localized land management bills is just staggering.
It really is. It takes up a huge portion of the docket.
I was flipping through pages and pages of local real estate logistics, like H.R. 8454, transferring administrative jurisdiction of 330 acres in Tuolumne County, California, between the Forest Service and the National Park Service.
Just to fix a boundary line.
Right, or designating national heritage areas for the Calumet region in Indiana with S3501, or the Endless Mountains in Pennsylvania with S4238.
Or S2887, simply designating Route 66 as a National Historic Trail.
And don't forget the post offices, designating a facility in Alabama as the Tuskegee Airmen Memorial Post Office with H.R. 6006, or naming one in Hawaii after Representative Colleen Hanabusa with H.R. 8945. Okay, I have to push back here, though. With everything else we just talked about, the opioid crisis, the AI grid, global conflicts, structural government ethics, why does the national legislature of the United States spend literal floor time taking a vote to rename a playground?
You're talking about S2933.
Yeah. There was a Senate bill to rename a playground in a West Virginia national park to honor children impacted by cancer. It is a beautiful sentiment, but why is the U.S. Senate doing it? What does this reveal about what a representative actually is?
Well, it reveals that the job is fundamentally split in two. I mean, a representative is a national legislator who has to vote on global AI policy, yes, but they're also the primary federal advocate for a very specific geographic community.
Right, their district.
Exactly. Renaming a playground or a post office might seem incredibly trivial on a global scale, but locally, to that town in West Virginia, it is visible, tangible proof that the federal government sees them, honors them, and can actually deliver
I
results.
see.
It is retail politics literally encoded into federal law.
That actually makes a lot of sense. The local advocacy has to happen right alongside the national strategy. And speaking of targeted strategy, you see this in policy impact as well. Look at S4187.
The maternal mortality bill.
Right. It's a bill aiming to improve data collection and care to reduce maternal mortality, but it is specifically targeted at American Indian and Alaskan Native populations.
It addresses historical gaps in care by directly funding the Indian Health Service to deliver quality maternity care.
So it is a highly localized solution to a systemic problem.
Which is actually a perfect segue into looking ahead. Everything we've discussed so far has been about managing the present.
True.
But when you look at the legislative pipeline, you start to see how Congress is laying the groundwork for the next decade of technology and resource independence.
Here is where it gets really interesting, specifically regarding domestic supply chains. Congress is actively legislating to map and secure critical minerals.
Right, with H.R. 961N and 9617.
Yes. Those bills establish EPA programs to recover critical minerals from contaminated sites and discarded materials. They are literally trying to mine our own waste to strengthen domestic supply chains.
And they're utilizing incredibly advanced science to do it. The Earth Mapping Resources Initiative Reauthorization-HR 9640 explicitly pushes for the use of something called quantum gravity gradiometry.
Okay, quantum gravity gradiometry. I had to read that phrase 3 times to make sure I wasn't reading a sci-fi novel. What on earth is that?
Simply put, it is a technique that uses quantum physics to measure minute differences in the Earth's gravitational field.
Okay.
So different underground minerals have different densities, right? Which subtly alter gravity on the surface. By mapping these tiny gravitational gradients from the air, scientists can locate deep deposits of rare earth elements without having to do massive amounts of speculative, environmentally destructive drilling.
That is incredible. And they are looking to the skies for transportation, too. S-1759, the Supersonic Aviation Modernization Act, aims to set a regulatory framework allowing civil supersonic flights over the U.S.
Provided they can operate without sonic booms reaching the ground, of course.
Right.
Meanwhile, the Senate is also pushing the FAA with S-3885 to update its type certification process to speed up the deployment of advanced air mobility technologies.
Advanced air mobility. We are talking about electric vertical takeoff and landing vehicles, basically air taxis?
Exactly. Congress wants standard expected timelines established so the regulatory framework can keep pace with industry innovation.
Which brings up another pushback point for me. If Congress is currently drafting laws for quantum mapping and civilian supersonic flight, are they actually getting ahead of the curve for once? Or is this just a frantic attempt to catch up to private industries that are already leaving them in the dust?
I mean, it is a bit of both, but mostly it is a desperate attempt to not be left completely behind. Private industry moves at the speed of capital, which is instant.
Right.
Congress moves at the speed of consensus, which is glacial.
Yeah.
So by mandating that the FAA establish timelines or pushing the EPA to research mineral recovery, Congress is trying to build the regulatory tracks just a few feet ahead of a speeding train.
That's a great image. We also see them trying to reshape how we will interact with everyday systems in the future, like healthcare billing.
Oh, this is a big one.
Yeah, there's a slate of bills, HR 9390, 9393, and S2355, mandating strict, machine-readable price transparency for hospitals, ambulatory surgical centers, and clinical labs by 2027 and 2028.
They want discounted cash prices and payer-specific negotiated charges posted clearly online.
But the key phrase there is machine-readable, right?
Yes, absolutely. Right now, healthcare billing is notoriously opaque. A hospital might post prices in a massive unsearchable PDF that changes format from clinic to clinic.
Which is useless for the average person.
Completely. By forcing hospitals to output pricing data in a uniform machine-readable spreadsheet format, Congress is trying to turn a closed system into a transparent, searchable consumer market.
Meaning, software developers could scrape that uniform data and build apps that let you instantly compare the cost of an MRI across your city.
Exactly. Taking a massive, frustrating system and applying a logistical fix to empower the consumer.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener? First of all, we want to express our sincere gratitude to you for choosing to spend your time getting informed. We know diving below the surface of the news can be dense, but understanding the architecture of your government is the ultimate superpower.
It really is. And remember, you can help keep this ad-free civic education resource sustainable by using the Buy Me a Coffee link in the episode description.
Yes, please do. And to empower you further, remember that you can read the exact, unedited text of all the bills we discussed today.
Whether it's H.R. 1266 on xylazine scheduling or the Supersonic Aviation Modernization Act, S. 1759, you can search for them directly on congress.gov.
That site is your citizen toolkit. You can find upcoming committee hearings, track how your specific representatives voted on roll calls, and read the actual text.
And when you contact your representatives to ask for their stance, use these specific bill numbers.
Yes, saying, I want to know your position on using quantum mapping for critical minerals under H.R. 9646 proves that your participation in democracy goes far beyond just voting on Election Day. You are actively watching the blueprints unfold.
Which leaves us with a final thought to ponder. Throughout this deep dive, we've seen Congress passing legislation to define the boundaries of cutting-edge artificial intelligence, quantum physics, and even the biological definitions of human life.
Exactly. Congress is a rigid, 200-year-old institution built on paper, committees, and slow deliberation. But the world it is trying to regulate is fundamentally fluid and moving at light speed.
So how will this centuries-old legislative architecture adapt to a future where the very definitions of technology, energy, and humanity are rapidly shifting beneath its feet?
That is the ultimate stress test of the American legislative experiment.
It certainly is.
Until next time, keep looking beneath the surface.